Tyreek Hill has been traded from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins. Now, look, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere in the woods in Kansas, and I start getting texts from buddies yesterday like, hey, did you know Tyreek is up for trade? I'm like, what? And by the time I found internet, he was gone. He was already in Miami. So here are the details. We'll go over more when I get back in town and I can have time to sit down and make a whole red and gold report. But he's being traded for 5 draft picks to Miami. Miami is getting the Chiefs their first round draft pick this year, but that's the 29th overall. Not a great selection. They're also giving the Chiefs their second and fourth rounder this year, and then their 4th and 6th round picks next year as well. Now, this seems like a rush. It really does seem like a rush job. But in another way, we should have seen it coming. I mean, Davante Adams, who recently was traded from the Packers to the Raiders, signed a deal worth $28 million a year. Davante shares a agent with Tyreek. And so, you know what? You knew that this contract was going to get awfully muddy to try to renegotiate with the Chiefs after that deal got signed. They play the same position. Now they were going to be in the same division. They have the same agent. That contract probably got a lot more difficult after Davante signed with the Raiders. And so, yeah, it was a rush. It seems like a rush from the outside, but the writing was on the wall a little bit. There was even a Twitter thing that Hill put out a couple weeks ago where we should maybe have seen this kind of coming. One thing's clear, though. The Chiefs are definitely worse without Tyreek. You know, with Tyreek in the game, the Chiefs offense scores 3.4 touchdowns per game, but without him, they only score 2.8. So 3.4 touchdowns with Tyreek, 2.8 without him. That's most of a touchdown extra just because Tyreek's in the game, which brings me to my point. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, why did the Chiefs just trade him away? He is just an elite wide receiver. He changes how the offense works. You know, defenses really have to respect him every single play, what he can do deep. It changes all of the intermediate and short passes. It really changes how defenses have to play the Chiefs. And so they're not going to replace that with the 29th overall pick in the draft. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So this just does not make sense to me. Now, I've seen some people online already saying, well, the Chiefs got back so many picks that it's kind of like you could collect them and maybe move up and you could get high in the first round, or they're like worth a high first rounder. That's a garbage argument. If you like that argument, you should go check out how the trade between the Raiders and Bears for Khalil Mack worked a few years ago. That was not a good trade for the Raiders. They thought, oh, if we take this elite player, if we get back a ton of picks for him, well, we'll be able to make up for it. We won't have to invest all the money. Did not work out. That went down as one of the worst trades in these last few years. This also points out another issue that, well, the Chiefs have been kicking money down the road with backloaded contracts for years now, and it kind of seems like it finally bit them in the butt, doesn't it? Because now they couldn't afford their elite playmaker on offense, their best wide receiver, their deep threat. They couldn't afford him because of these other contracts on the team. It just does not make sense to me. They're not going to get an elite player back for that 29th pick overall in the draft, which brings me to one word: why? Why did this happen? Now, here's the thing. If you're thinking, well, this just happened for money, pump the brakes a little on that, because the issue is, if you're thinking, well, the Chiefs just couldn't afford him this year, well, the contract that Tyreek just signed with the Miami Dolphins has him only counting for $6.5 million against the cap this year. So that doesn't really make sense. It's a backloaded contract. Actually, the last year of the contract that Tyreek signed with the Miami Dolphins is a fake year. I would describe it as a fake year. There's still $5 million left, about $5 million left in guaranteed money in his last year in this contract with the Dolphins. But he's set to make $50 million in 1 year. That's not going to happen. That's fake. That's phony money. He won't make that. He'll either renegotiate it or he won't live up to the contract and get cut before that final year. No way he's making that. So if you take away that last phony year, he's not making $30 million a year. He's making $24 million a season. Yeah, still a ton of money, but that should be doable with today's cap. So I struggle to see how this makes sense as just a cap move, just a money move. I also struggle with this because why trade him at all? I mean, he was still under contract this year. You could have had him under contract this year and then franchised him next year. Why trade him? It's certainly not worth the 29th overall pick to trade him. Why not just have him play? Oh, but he's gonna hold out. Who cares? Who cares if he misses the preseason? Who cares if he misses camp? Who cares? Who cares if he holds out and sees, like, week 3 he comes back? Why does that matter? Certainly not worth the 29th pick. So why? Why did this happen? Also, why did the Chiefs let him, it appears like they let him choose his destination? Why trade in Miami just because he wanted to go there? You're only getting the 29th pick back? The Jets were also interested. Now, we're not sure if they offered the 4th or 10th overall pick, but let's say they didn't. Don't you think they would have come around to that over the next couple weeks and would have offered the 10th? Well, then maybe you could have gotten an elite player with that 10th overall pick. This just doesn't make sense to me. Why did they do this? Why did they do it? It just doesn't add up. So we're only left to speculate. Was it that the Chiefs were worried to give $72 million guaranteed to a player who's had some issues off the field? Or was it that by the end of the contract, Tyreek's going to be 32 years old, and they were too worried because a fast twitch guy like this often he'll have an injury later, after about the age of 30 and start to slow down? Were they worried about that, about the end of the contract? Why? Why do you think? Why do you think that Tyreek was traded? Do you think it was just about the money? Do you think that maybe there was some off-field stuff or age? Or leave that in the comments below. Let me know if you actually agree with this trade or you disagree with this trade. Let me know if you think the Chiefs should have gotten more for the trade, if you think that they should have traded them. Leave all that in the comments below. Also, if you've never subscribed to the Red and Gold Report, subscribe, hit the buttons for subscribing on YouTube and the notification bell. I'm going to be back in a few days and we'll get a full episode of the Red and Gold going. Thanks for watching and go Chiefs!